Jackass Forever is directed by Jeff Tremaine and stars Johnny Knoxville, Steve-O, and among others. And this is the fourth film in the main Jackass franchise that is based off of the original TV series that came out all the way back in the early 2000s on MTV. And not really much of a plot, but basically this is the fourth film where the guys who are all part of the Jackass crew, they come together and do some more shenanigans shit that gets almost to the near-death experiences this time, and they bring in a new cast members, including a lot of younger faces this time, and to basically do a whole carry-on approach, and essentially just have fun and basically just spitball at each other and do a lot of pranks and stuff, and a lot of real reactions here and there. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this is, like I said, this is the fourth film in the Jackass franchise. I've actually been a fan of Jackass for a long time. I grew up with it, especially with the original TV series. I really grew into the original movies, the first three especially, when they came out. I didn't see really any of them in the theaters until the third movie, but I've always loved every one of them because just a lot of the outrageous stunts and stuff that they've done in those movies really shows that these guys are really... You know, they've really went through a whole lot of shit to really put themselves in so much injuries and all kinds of shit. And you could tell a lot of the fun that they had making with all these. And after the third movie came out, I never really thought that they were going to make any more Jackass movies because I know that for a while that they always considered the third movie was basically... I always thought that they considered that the last one as it had the original crew all together and everything. And then when Ryan Dunn tragically passed away in 2011, it really felt like there really was no way they were going to continue it anymore. And they eventually, Johnny Knoxville started doing some other ones that were more like Jackass-inspired movies, like Bad Grandpa, which was a spin-off of the Jackass movies, which I enjoyed. I thought it was funny. And then he had this other one that was called Action Point a couple of years ago that is not really as good as the Jackass movies, not really as funny, but I still thought it had its moment, and I thought it was a decent time because that one had Knoxville and Chris Pontius in it. And so with this one, it got me really interested to see what they would do because from what I heard was that most of the crew that were doing with a lot of this stuff, with Knoxville, Steve-O, Wee Man, and especially Aaron, they all went through a whole lot of stuff in this one that almost really got them in the most critical condition, like almost near death experiences, it seems like. And so when I started getting the trailers for this, it made me really happy to see these guys have still got it, and with them doing kind of like a passing the torch kind of thing with these newer people that were brought on board, it kind of got me excited, but at the same time, I kind of went to just more open expectations because knowing that they didn't have, two of the cast members, including me, rest in peace, Ryan Dunn, and also the other one, biggest one with Bam Margera, not going into detail, but Bam Margera went through a whole lot of personal stuff to where they couldn't get him for the movie. And so you could tell that there was some of the missing ingredients that was really trying to get it together. Like, that was the only thing I could see that hardcore fans of Jackass were really missing for the film. But upon seeing it, I can honestly say that I had a great time with this movie. I thought it was funny. It was definitely crude and very pretty cringe at times of trying to watch certain things that these guys do still. And it had a good time, but it is definitely probably, out of the other movies, it's my least favorite of the main four movies. But I still thought it still worked. And so, to get my pros out of the way, the cast were all, fantastic as usual. The boys doing all their usual shtick here and there. One of the biggest standouts for me the most that worked this time was Aaron, who really went through a whole lot of shit and took like the most severe stuff, especially... Well, if you've seen from the trailers, that stuff that involves that bear, that was like so fucking unnerving when I was watching it. And then this other part that has to do with Steve-O, where it has to do with bees. And knowing the other movies have dealt with bees, that one was one of the other ones I was just like, holy shit. That was like really fucking hard to watch. And then some of the other stunts were kind of fun to watch too, like especially some of the parts that involve with some of the newer guys. Zach, who was one of the newer guys, who was going with Preston, and when they jump, or not Preston, with the newer guys, are going on this like kind of like a ramp or whatever, or this kind of like slide that they put in like this kind of desert area. And man, they go through some. They do have some fun stunts here and there that really stood out, including that one, and then also the one with the hand that hits that hits people like they do in the other ones. And then, of course, the one that I think that really I thought was interesting was this one that involved with, well, the one there's this one that involves with them on a carousel and they're moving back and forth and everything, and they basically have to they end up getting like really sick from it. And then another one that was really hard to watch too, that was pretty insane, was the one that involves with Knoxville, that involves this bull. And man, that shit was like that's the kind of shit that I couldn't imagine, because knowing that how many times that he's went through in the other films dealing with, animals. This one, they said that this one really took it to the most, where he went into some pretty hardcore critical condition almost, and so, or a very bad concussion from it. So I couldn't imagine being all the shit that these guys do. And so, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of great stuff that they still blend in with the guys just hanging out and everything, and being able to just, look back on themselves. Also, we're getting old footage of when they were younger and the clips from like the original films that I thought was pretty cool to see. And they do also have a nice little tribute to Ryan Dunn at the end of the film that I thought was very heartwarming. And some of the newer characters that they bring in are actually did kind of stand out for me in a good way. Like the one that they introduced is Poopies. I thought he was pretty funny. And then there was this other guy, I forgot his name. Zach was another fun addition that they brought to the cast. I thought really stood out the best. There were some other ones they bring in there that are fine, but they're just not really that memorable, except for this one part that was kind of really on the, because they don't really add much of the stunts as they don't really add much of the other like stunts as much as they do like more reaction stuff. Like the girl they introduced, Rachel. The only thing I remember really seeing her in that I thought was pretty painful was this one where it has to do with they use like a scorpion on her to give that stings her face or stings her lips and all that. But other than that, I mean, I just thought that they were fine, but they weren't like, I didn't really like felt like they were really latched on compared to how, when Jackass like what the other movies were, when you were really getting into seeing how all the crew worked and everything. I thought we could have seen a lot more interactions that could have worked a lot more with them and the older crew. Because it really felt like the passing the torch, it kind of gets in more of some of my cons. The passing the torch thing I don't really think is really fitting, to be precise, because we don't really see a whole lot of a proper way of passing the torch, so to speak, with how these newer people, take into a lot of the account. Because with the newer crew, it really seems like they're not really doing as much as the dangerous stuff compared to what the older crew does. Now, I get that it's kind of like their first time doing everything, so they're not going to be doing as much crazy shit. But it really felt like they really could have put more emphasis on some of the stunts they could have added more with, in order to really showcase it that they're really working together with the original crew. And then some other kind of minor things, like, I mean, it is pretty hard. It's really missing Bam in this, because I know that he went through some personal stuff, but I really felt like his presence was missing because of all this stuff, that the crazy stunts and stuff that he used to do in the other films was definitely missing here. And I get why he's not, and I totally understand why he's not in the film, and I can see why they didn't want to put him in the movie. But it's just, you can see his presence is missing because of some of the stuff that he originally did and everything. And then some of the other things that they add with the movie, I felt like it was just more crude, just and kind of like rehashing certain things that, while they were, shocking and sometimes funny at times, I did feel like they were kind of rehashing some of this other stuff that they did from some of the previous movies. Like there's this one where it's where like Dave England goes to take a shit at this toilet, for example, and it's almost like the same like gag it's almost like the same prank that they did in the first Jackass movie, and things like that. And then I did notice that there was one scene where when they do the whole bad grandpa, there's that scene in the trailer that shows Knoxville as the bad grandpa. It did really feel like the way the scene played out. And now I don't know if this was meant to be I don't know if this was a real reaction on, but just the way the scene played out, it didn't really feel like they had much of a real reaction, so to speak. It felt more like it was scripted, and it wasn't quite as like, very, trying to be out there and trying to be all hidden cam like it should have probably went the way the scene played out. But that's just kind of just a minor thing because I thought the rest of the movie I thought was still very blended well and really captured a lot of what Jackass was. And so while it did have its issues, I still thought it still was an enjoyable time. And so with that being said, I'm going to give the movie a low compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So since the movie was very entertaining enough and it really made me enjoy seeing all the crew together and everything, all the the stuff that they do and all the outrageous stuff that they do that made me laugh, and a lot of the really insane stunts here and there, especially with Aaron and the rest of the crew. I did feel like it still was enjoyable, but it was still below the other films. So for those of you who've also seen Jackass Forever and also the other Jackass movies, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.